Blood Money, episode 22. Kevin Jenkins from America's Frontline Doctors discusses keeping corruption out of the freedom movement. How you doing, Kevin?
Hello, how you doing, buddy?
Good to see you, good to see you. So we're on Blood Money, episode 23. Today's topic is keeping corruption out of the freedom movement. And Kevin, before we dive into the specifics of the work you're doing currently with America's Frontline Doctors, could you tell us a little bit about your background for the viewer that, doesn't know you?
Well, in the last 3 years, I've been active in the medical freedom movement and working on bringing patriots and the medical freedom movement together so we can work to fight against the tyranny of our time. But I have over 25 to 30 years experience in community development, community economic development, nonprofit ethics, and foundational development. I'm actually a developer, and I've actually ran several key companies around the country developing housing for low, moderate income and middle-class families, but also have spent decades in government and politics navigating those clammy waters to make sure that all of the things that need to be done for people around the country is done. So I have a huge background. I did hospital acquisitions, traveled in Africa, working for the Dreyfus Foundation. My resume runs long and deep, but my commitment now is to make sure that we build strong institutions in this country to be anti the institutions that believe they should control our body autonomy and our body sovereignty and our families and our community and our faith. So that's what I've been working on for the last 3 years. I've traveled over 400 and some odd thousand miles, spoke to over 1.5 million people, been to probably 67 cities, some cities twice, 3 times, been to 40, I think now there's 42 states. So I've been active out there in the real world talking about how do we come together, not to be bound by race, not to be bound by class, but to come together to fight against the tyranny of our time. And I think this is a phenomenal moment for us in history where we can correct all the things that we know that we've given our power to, the government given our power to, even some of the faith centers that closed down and zoomed in Jesus. And then as soon as Big Pharma offered them money, they opened up their churches and told people, step in, praise God, but kill yourself. I mean, I was stunned by that when I saw that, because no place on earth needs to believe in what God created was the church. And I think that we have a lot of work to do in this country by reclaiming our voice and reclaiming our power.
So you're you have an impeccable reputation and a resume, and there's some things I guess that went down with America's Frontline Doctors over the last 6 months. That you have been tasked with, really coming in and helping to set the mandate of America's Frontline Doctors back to what it's supposed to be. Could you tell us a little bit about what's happened in the last 6 months that has now led you to chairman America's Frontline Doctors?
Well, I want to start off by saying this. This is not something that I wanted to do. This is not something I believe the committee wanted to do. I don't believe this is something that the board of directors wanted to do, but I think all of the people that have been actively involved in trying to preserve America's Frontline Doctors came on to the playing field to do that, to give assistance to Joey Gilbert and the board when they put this committee together. But let me just start out by saying this. I was a supporter of Dr. Simone. I wrote a declaration for her civil rights legal case that she had in New York. I actually just volunteered several months ago to speak for her boyfriend at trial. I've done some really good community activity with her through the Urban Global Health Alliance when we funded an event in Georgia to bring the American Front Doctors to the Black community to talk about the impact of COVID. I also did a 3-city tour. I only did 2 of the cities, but with a foundation I won't name that she was a part of, that we actually did some work together. Really out there doing some great things. And then when I was asked and tasked to do this, when I found out what she was doing with the money of the institution and basically making it her own personal piggy bank, I couldn't just turn away. I couldn't turn a blind eye, because I was concerned about what was happening in this movement, that there are certain people believe that their mission is not about the children, not about the country, not about what we're trying to do to fight against the tyranny of our time. It's about their greed. It's about their personalities. It's about their character defect. And I got to tell you, I feel really awful because I'm part of the Disinformation 12. I've been censored more than probably anyone in America with that group of people, those great Americans that are constantly standing up against the tyranny of their time. And I feel right now that, Dr. Simone and her cohorts are attempting to sequester us by now. All of a sudden, I get a cease and desist letter. All of a sudden, I get calls about her telling people they don't want me on the stage because I've now found out all of the things that she's been doing over.
When you say, sorry to interrupt you, when you say you don't want her on the stage, could you be more specific?
Oh yeah, she's making calls right now, telling, for instance, the freedom thing that Clay Clark does that I've been on since its inception. She's now calling them and saying, well, I don't want Kevin on the stage with me.
Wow.
And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, that's the same thing Big Pharma is doing. That's the same thing Big Tech is doing. That's the same thing the banking industry is doing. That's the same thing all of the people that we've been fighting has been doing to all of us in this country that have been standing up against the tyranny of our time. So what I'm saying to the world and what I'm saying to the country and what I'm saying to individuals, that this is a very serious issue, because this can really play a key role in damaging the momentum, the forward momentum that we have to fight against the tyranny of our time. And we're fighting some really big monsters. So when you have people inside our organization taking on the personality of the tyrants that we are fighting, well, that means that we all should be alarmed. And so I'm thanking Trent Luce. I'm thanking Dr. Aaron Lewis. I'm thanking Rachel Rodriguez for stepping up and saying, hey, wait a minute. It's not about Simone. It's not about, what she wants. It's not about her greed. It's not about any of that. It's about preserving an organization called America's Frontline Doctors that was standing in the gap for every child, every parent, every organization, and other doctors that were afraid to go out there. But those doctors did. And we need those doctors. We need this organization. We need strong leadership. And I got to tell you, the board of directors, the real board of directors at America's Frontline Doctors, they did the right thing by bringing an outside group in to really study this and analyze this so they can set America's Frontline Doctors moving forward, not being stuck on the things that she's been doing. And I think the other thing that I'm fascinated by is that she doesn't want to take responsibility for this. She wants to blame everybody else for it. I think this committee is a very strong, committed group of honest Americans that are every day fighting against the tyranny of their time, every day standing up for organizations like America's Frontline Doctors. I think it's time for us to send a message to all of those people that think that it's personalities over principles. That can't happen in our group. And this kind of corruption has to be stopped by all of us, just not this group studying it and coming out with a report in the end of February, but to stand up against all of the tyranny inside our organizations, all of the misrepresentation and greed in all of our organizations, and stand up for Americans and children, because that's why we got involved in it.
So you've been conducting an investigation in terms of seeing what happened over the course of the last couple of years. What has that produced?
Well, it produced fraud. It demonstrated a certain amount of fraud that I can't go into deeply because I don't want to give all the candy away before the report comes out. But let me just tell you this. When I first got involved in this, I was very apprehensive until I started reading all of the information. And I got to tell you something, I was floored. The level of fraud, that had been going on there. And I got to tell you, the board of directors really tried to stop it. From all of the data and all of the information I'm looking at, Joey Gilbert went to her and said, listen, we can't do this. We have to right the ship. The board of directors say, listen, we have to really organize ourselves differently, and we can't be running this like a mom and pop. And she agreed. And then when she came out of prison after those 60 days, she did exactly what she was always planning to do. Continue to rob the organization, continue to steal the mission away from the true believers of America Frontline Doctors, and also impact the funders. Think about this. Mama bears, grandmas, grandpas, people with not a lot of money gave their money because they believed that America's Frontline Doctors were going to stand in the gap for them. When they were being told that your immunity is not your body autonomy is not important. Your immunity, give that away. Just turn over your body to us, to an experimental biologic or bioweapon that doesn't stop transmission and doesn't stop infection, and it has a 99.8% recoverable rate. So when they first started on this journey, I think she had the right heart, and I think she became something else, and I think that she needs to take responsibility for what she's doing. And this report is not going to be just talking about the bad things. It's going to be talking about the things we need to be doing to preserve the trust that all of these great Americans had given America's Frontline Doctors, and then protect those doctors that put their careers on the line, that put their livelihoods on the line. So we have a real responsibility to do the right thing. And I would have been hopeful. I should say be hopeful that she would have done the right thing and stepped aside and say, things didn't go right. I was wrong. I take responsibility. You know what? I don't want to do anything to destroy this movement. I don't want to do anything to take away our ability to help people all around the world. I don't want to do anything to take away from this strong organization that came together, doctors, laymen, all kinds of professionals to create it and fund it. I don't want to do that. I want to step aside and I want to make sure that this organization is thriving.
I'm going to pull up a comment that I believe John Strand, Dr. Simone Gold's boyfriend, posted online. And I'd love to read this real quick. Travis, do you mind pulling that up? Thank you. So this is a message by John Strand addressing Jess Abu, who is a former employee of America's Frontline Doctors. This message states, however, Jess ignores the fact that while small donations are extremely important, the 7-figure donations came from experienced philanthropists who were well aware that Dr. Gold was an emerging celebrity, well on the way to achieving rock star adoration and recognition, and they were eager to fund this image as it enhanced the effectiveness of her vital message. Nobody would have accused, say, the Queen of England of living high on the hog on the British people's dime, yet Dr. Simone Gold has arguably done more for humanity than the entire ridiculous British family combined. Why doesn't she deserve the credit? I'd love for you to comment on that, Kevin.
Wow. That's just hubris at a whole nother level. That's sad. I mean, that's really sad. I don't know.
The Queen of England.
I can't get into the mind of a person like that or get into the mind of, why they would write something like that. But that is what I call maximum sophisticated confusion. They're running away from their responsibility for what they've done. They're running away from the fact they tried to destroy Joey Gilbert's reputation. They're running away from the fact that they stole money and was engaged in fraud at the foundation level, at the nonprofit level. I mean, what they did to the board of directors by embarrassing those board members that were trusted, valued people that really wanted to grow America's Frontline Doctors. I mean, what you just saw right there is part of the problem, and when people do that, and when people put themselves above the mission, when people put themselves above our children, when people put themselves above an organization like America's Frontline Doctors, they do us grave damage. She's no different than Big Pharma. She's no different than Big Tech, what Big Tech has been doing to us. She's no different at any level. She is now a part of their team. I mean, think about that. I mean, to compare herself to the royal family. Now, if people know anything about the royal family, I would not be doing that. And to give her this title that she's done more for America, has done more for this movement, that's hubris at another level. I mean, I'm really shocked. But now, after reading what I've been reading for the last several weeks, I'm not shocked at all. But you know what it is? I'm saddened. I'm saddened that I gave her my trust. I'm saddened that I was going to go testify for him several months ago. I was going to testify for him because I thought what they were doing to him was wrong. But after reading all of the documents, I would have made a big mistake. So I want everybody to know that when I started on this journey and was asked to be a part of this team, because the board was the one that put the committee together, because they really were thinking about how do we bring an outside group to come in to make sure we're handling this the right way. So she didn't want that to happen. She didn't want to be asked any questions. Now, there's a lot of staff members that are coming out whistleblowing that's going to be a part of this report. This report is going to be, I think, a guidepost for other organizations to make sure they cover their deck and they cover their commitment to the movement by doing the right thing organizationally. I say, so right now, what you just read there, it's just sad for me to hear that, that's how they're thinking right now, as opposed to standing up and saying that we made a mistake and we should all work together to fix this. And I would love to step aside because I believe in this organization. But what she's doing now, she's using the trademark of America's Frontline Doctors to raise money. That's fraud. She's now paying an outfit called Frontline News in Israel to write stories about the people that are now looking underneath the lid and seeing what she has done wrong to destroy an organization that cared so much about America and cared so much about children and cared so much about families and also stood in the gap to protect our body sovereignty. She's now crashing that and using America's Frontline Doctors' money to pay this outfit in Israel to destroy the movement. to destroy this movement, to cause confusion in this movement. She does.
And what you're referencing, just so that in case the viewer doesn't know, sorry to interrupt you, but essentially there's been a lot of defamatory articles that written about Joey Gilbert, which stem from Israel, where they're running the America's Frontline news. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out for the viewer that's not aware of some of these defamatory articles.
I think there's something even more horrific and egregious. She's actually using America's Frontline doctors' money, money that was earmarked to protect our body sovereignty, protect our children, to protect this country. She's now using that money because she's told the banks that she is still a part of America's Frontline doctors, and that will be resolved. And in the report, you will see that she had stepped aside months and months ago. Everything that she's been saying has been a lie. She went earlier on and bought the $3.6 million home. She spent the money as if it was her own personal piggy bank. Now, guess what? There are things that as a board member or as a founder, you should be given an opportunity to do, but you don't do it without the board's approval. Then you don't use the money to attack the board. You don't use the money to protect the guy, Joey Gilbert, that stood in the gap for you when you were in prison. That stood up in America and said, this is a great American and we need to stand by her. But when he started looking deeper, then he started seeing the ugly side of Dr. Simone Gold. And obviously, after you read this report, you're going to see it. I want to touch upon that. I want to touch upon what's some of the stuff that's been said about Joey. But before we get into that, regarding this text or tweet that I just read, one of the things that strikes me is that she's referring to America's Front, or John Strand is referring to America's Frontline Doctors as essentially the Simone Gold show. Which it's called America's Frontline Doctors. If you pay concert tickets, you go to see the Beatles, and then you go to a concert, and then a Beatles shows up. That's kind of false advertising, and it seems like the whole foundation was geared towards rather than the doctors, really the doctor. What do you have to say about that? Well, I think she hijacked it. I think she pushed probably a lot of doctors out. I mean, a lot of what I'm finding out during our due diligence, a lot of the staff members that were fired was fired because they were telling her the truth and saying, listen, we need to do a better job and do a better job of oversight and make sure we protect the value of the organization. That's going to come out. I think it became a cult of personality. It was about her and not the movement. It was about her, but not the children. It was about her and not the country. And you see it. You see it. It's glaring now, even for me. And I got to tell you, I'm very hurt by it, but this is about correcting the wrongs. And I think all of us have to take responsibility when we do things wrong, even me, even Kevin Jenkins, even you. For the sake of this organization and for the sake of the movement, we have to make sure America's Frontline Doctors is firmly footed, that it continues on its overall mission. There's some key things that are happening in the country right now around the blood bank issue. Right now, around what's happening to athletes all around the country, myocarditis all around the country. There's so many issues that we should be out in front of, but we're right now fighting someone that believes that the movement is about her and not about the country, not about our children, and not about our families.
Yeah, I mean, that text message pretty much, sets up this vision of like a celebrity and kind of contradicts.
If I'm not mistaken, she called herself a folk hero. And I thought that was up to us to call her folk hero.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. The people got to call. You can't, it's not, you're not Michael Jackson naming yourself the king of pop. You got to, let other people give you those compliments. Now, Kevin, let's talk a little bit about Joey, like where she said a lot of horrible things about Joey. I think there was an article basically insinuating he's an anti-Semite. There was another article comparing him with Michael Avenatti. We did a lot of research to see if there was any truth to any of this stuff. Is Joey, has he ever said anti-Semitic things? Has he ever acted like a Michael Avenatti type? And we couldn't really find anything regarding these hits against Joey's reputation. What do you have to say about some of these articles that they're publishing?
This is what I know about Joey Gilbert. When he came to me and we were talking about this issue, I already knew him. And I knew what a great guy he was. I knew what a great American he was. I know that he did a great job running for governor. I mean, he made me proud. And I knew he was someone that was going to be standing up for this country and standing up for children and standing up for families and making sure we get all of the protections that we need from a civil rights perspective and from a human perspective. I got to tell you, you could not meet a nicer person. You cannot meet a truer person. So when people were saying that she was saying all of these things about him, I was quite disturbed because I didn't see all of it. I didn't see any of the documents that ended up landing on my table for me to review before I took this new post of working with this advisory committee. So I got to tell you, this is a great American, and I feel bad. He has a family. He has people that look up to him. He has a state that worked hard to try to make him the governor. She has no right to tear him down. She has no right to destroy his character. She has no right to call around the country and try to censor me from going on the stage to protect and work as hard as we've all worked to preserve life in this country. She has no right to destroy the America's Frontline doctors because she believes it's hers. She has no right to get up and write lies and use organizations outside of the country. The same thing they did with us with the digital hate the group out of UK, but we're working close hand in hand with Big Pharma to talk about the Disinformation 12 and make us the most hated people in the world because we were standing up against the tyranny of our time. She has no right to lie to America. She has no right. So Joey Gilbert is a great American. Sheriff Mack is a great American. Trent Luce is a great American. Rachel Rodriguez is a great American. Dr. Aaron Lewis, everybody's stepping out on faith and making sure that we work hard every day to produce the right information so the country can see that not only was Joey Gilbert harmed, but every small donor, every large donor.
And now those donor funds are being, sorry to interrupt you. Now those donor funds are being used to essentially publish negative defamatory articles.
Yeah, but she has access to if we're looking into this now, we're researching it. So I have to be mindful of what I'm saying because this all has legal implications for her, not for me. But at the end of the day, she's used money and using money, right, to still pay herself, live in a house for free, that's worth $3.5 some odd million, still travel around the country as if she represents America's Frontline doctors. Now that's fraud. And then there was an audit that was done that was so bad. This is what we're finding out through all of our research. That was
this is a third-party audit you're referring to.
Right, third-party audit. Absolutely. So bad, ready for this, that they would not even sign off on it.
Wow.
Now, you have to understand, she's no different than Soros. She's no different than Bill Gates. She's no different than Vanguard. She's no different than BlackRock.
The BLM, there was that lady with BLM that spent a couple of million on a home. I mean, how different is she from what those folks were doing?
There's no different. And she needs to come clean. She needs to apologize to America. She needs to apologize to Joey and the board. She needs to apologize to all of America's Frontline doctors that stood in there and was working tirelessly. She needs to apologize to all of the Frontline doctors that she's continuing to lie to. She just gave an event. Let's talk about hubris and disrespect. If I'm not mistaken, all of our reports are coming back because this report is going to be very extensive. She gave a New Year's Eve party under the auspices of America's Frontline doctors. We're doing research on that because that's serious trademark infringement.
Wow. So why is not, like, when I heard about the story, I told myself, with what happened with the BLM individuals, that the mainstream media would have seized upon this story, would have immediately seized upon it because they're looking for people that are right leaning to defame, to say negative things about. I mean, if you follow their regular course of business, you would think that this story is a lovely story for them to cover. Why do you think that there's been silence on the part of the mainstream media, like the CNNs and the MSNs?
The mainstream media doesn't care if we start to kill each other and feed off each other. That if we start acting like them, they win the day. And that's why all of us are fighting back and pushing back, because we can't allow anyone, any group to believe they're over the mission. And I believe that now, the way I'm looking at it, all of those people from J6, all of those people that sacrificed their lives for America, none of those people should be in prison. But isn't it interesting? She got a speedy trial. Isn't it interesting? She got 60 days. And isn't it interesting? She was allowed to come out of jail and go right back to her bad behavior without being challenged or without being told she was wrong. And when Joey and the board said she was wrong, and when they found out all of the stuff that was going on, she went after them. She went after them in a way that I was stunned about, actually. So, it's really funny that out of all of the people that have been suffering in these jails, left by the wayside, people are not coming to their defense. She gets to roam around the country and do what she's done. I think it's offensive and it's alarming, and we should pay attention to it. I think this movement needs a wake-up call. We need to clean house a little bit to make sure everybody's mission aligned. And I got to tell you, I've been reading a lot of stuff lately, and I've been in government for a long time. Normally, when people are allowed to roam free like that after breaking the law, that means they're cooperating. Now, if it's not true, that means they need to come to the table.
They're cooperating, you said?
Yes, I believe that. This is what happens. This is what happens in my line of business, being in government since I was a kid. This is what normally happens. Now, I don't know that to be true, but the actions that I'm seeing, it seems something is very, very nefarious going on. And then with her boyfriend writing these notes and writing these letters, and then using an outside group, Frontline News, taking America Frontline's doctor's name and like destroying it, and now using an outfit out of Israel to talk about and write about the people that are trying to fight for this movement. Shame, shame, shame on her. Shame, shame, shame on all of those people. Now, you see this picture here that you have here? Mm-hmm. That is the event that I sponsored for America's Frontline Doctors in Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow.
I was at that event with her.
Wow. So right now, where do you see the future of America's Frontline Doctors going? What is your vision to set this train back on its tracks and get back to the business that America's Frontline Doctors should be attending to?
In the next couple of weeks, as we move through this report, there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to be seeing that clearly were outlined that the America's Frontline Doctors is going nowhere. We're going to be out in front on this issue that's happening with athletes all over the country and young men and women all over the country. We're going to be making sure that we do all of the right policy and public relations stuff to educate the community around this country about what's been happening. We have a lot of good stuff happening, and I don't want to spoil it for the team that's working with me to make sure, but you're going to be seeing a press conference soon about a lot of the great work that we're going to be continuing. I got to tell you, I'm very proud. I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this, but I'm very proud of the people that are working at America's Frontline Doctors and the people that gave all their time. And those employees that were fired and those employees that were treated poorly, well, I just want to tell you this. Thank you for standing up, and thank you for being so courageous to put the real truth out there. Because guess what? Like Dr. Zelenko said, and so many other people said, we have to spread the truth like a mantra. And that's what we're doing. So when you talk about the credit cards for her kids, when you talk about the $50,000 a month, I mean, those numbers change, they vary. When you talk about her not being a board member, when you talk about her not being executive anymore, and she's out there promoting as if she is truly the leader of America's Frontline Doctors. And I got to tell you, Joey Gilbert was very honest. He was very upfront. And I'm very proud of him because we need men like him. We need men like Sheriff Mack. We need men like Dr. Aaron Lewis and Trent Luce. We need men. We need men to stand in the gap for this country and fight against this tyranny, because if we have tyranny inside, what do you think the tyranny on the outside is looking at to do to the rest of us?
Yeah, and I mean, just on the topic of Sheriff Mack, Joey Gilbert, I mean, it would have been easier for them to go along and get along, but they took a hard stance here, really to make sure that the corruption we're seeing on the left side doesn't ruin what's happening with this freedom movement. So much, compliments to them for having stood by the truth and putting themselves in the line of fire with all these negative articles and disinformation that's been coming out from the AFLDS website.
Well, these are honest individuals, and these are great Americans. I mean, Rachel Rodriguez, civil rights attorney. I mean, these people are not lightweights. They understand this movement. They understand the value of this movement. They understand the importance of America's Frontline Doctors. But I want everybody to understand this at home. This is not personal. This is about protecting this organization from a group of people that believed it was their personal big piggy bank. And all of those things that were done, I'm almost certain, without question, that they could have been done in a more positive and effective way so the institution wouldn't be harmed. And she's harmed this institution, and we're going to fight to preserve it. We're going to protect the donors. We're going to protect the families that believed in it. And we're going to now go right back to back to the board And we're going to map out a strategy that's going to set this country on fire, because we're never going to stop standing up for the families of this country. And we're never going to stop fighting for every child on this planet. And we're never, ever going to allow people like that to destroy what we're trying to build and preserving life on this planet.
Kevin, thank you so much for your courage and integrity. I mean, beyond what you're doing for AFLDS right now, what you've been doing for the last 3 years, because anybody that's in this freedom fight knows that you're going often against the grain. It's a hard thing to do. You get banned off of social media. You get shots thrown at you. But thank you very much for the work that you've been doing. And also thank you for the entire board of AFLDS for trying to set this situation straight. Was there anything that we didn't talk about that you'd like to address?
Well, I want people to stick with us. I want you to stick with America's Frontline Doctors. Don't abandon this group of people. Show them some love. They've been in prayer. They're trying not to make this personal. They're bonding as a family. They're still trying to protect the former employees. They're still trying to do all the things that's important for organizations like ours, to stand together and fight together and work together to do all the things that are critically important to save this planet and protect our children. When I got involved in this was not about Kevin Jenkins. This was not about any of that. This was about fighting for children, fighting for those mama bears, fighting for those doctors that lost their careers, fighting to make sure we spread the truth like a mantra, fighting and making sure that our organizations are the anti-Bill Gates organizations, as opposed to organizations that get bought off by big pharma, big tech, and the banking industry, and all of the global tyrants that believe that their corporatocracy, that infrastructure that they built, is more important than what God created. This is about God's work. This is not about Kevin Jenkins.
This is about the warriors out there fighting the battle. And, again, referencing that text message. I mean, it's not about celebrities. It's about saving children's lives. It's about saving the future with all these deaths that are happening right now from what seems like the COVID vaccine. So again, much respect to you guys for doing the great work that you guys do. Thank you very much, Kevin, for showing up to our Blood Money episode.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we'll continue to cover this story. We wish you guys the best of luck at AFLDS. We over here feel like you guys are going to do a fantastic job and turn this unfortunate corner here.
These next couple of weeks are going to be great for the institution, because I think they've all agreed that while we're doing this, we have to do the work that God endowed us to do and gave us the power to do. And guess what? You don't step away from God. I tell people, don't call me and say Happy New Year, say Happy God Year, because we have to continue God's work. And I think America's Frontline Doctors and what Joey and the board has done by putting this committee together and working together to figure out a pathway forward, I think it's absolutely important.
What would your message be, your final message to the viewers that are, looking at this going, hey, the left was doing some shady things with this whole BLM organization. Now we're seeing similar things in the right. What would you tell them in order to give them a sense of comfort that, no, we're not going to let that happen?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's what they are attempting to do, to break us up, to engage us in, this maximum sophisticated confusion, to get us fighting each other. I mean, for her to call someone to say they should censor me when I'm already the most censored person in America, with the Disinformation 12 and so many other great doctors and individuals in the country fighting for freedom. Be leery of those kinds of people. Stand with these nonprofits and these foundations that are doing the work. Don't run away. Don't get confused by this. The reason why this is happening is because God is in the midst, and we are finding out all of the bad stuff so we can correct it. Don't allow them to push you away from what we're doing. The people at America's Frontline Doctors, the board, and all of these other organizations are doing exceptional work. And I want everybody in America that's listening to this, get up, stand up for us. And listen, don't put your head in the sand and say, oh, I don't want to be involved in this, because if we don't do this right, all of us are going to be bumped off. And this is what they're doing. This is an infiltration at a level so sophisticated that we missed a point, because we're always looking for somebody to come to rescue us. No, we have to rescue ourselves. And I think that's what the board of directors is doing at America's Frontline Doctors, rescuing not just themselves, but rescuing the rest of the planet.
Yep, yep. And, just on the topic, closing off this interview here, just on the topic of the, mainstream media not talking about her. I mean, I think you were hinting at the fact that there might be some external help that she's getting. I guess the message here being that we don't know what's really going on behind the scenes.
But we do know one
Although,
thing. But we do know one thing. We do know one thing.
yeah.
There was an abundance of fraud that I'm even shocked about.
Yeah, and by the way, abundance of fraud in combination with silence from the mainstream media tells me, or at least hints to this idea that there's other powers, kind of what you were saying earlier.
You know what though? People ask me now, because the truth is coming out like a mantra, right? People ask me all the time, Kevin, you were right. And my response to them is like, oh my God, who wants to be right about this horror? Guess what? I don't want to be right about what I'm telling you about Dr. Simone Gold. I don't want to be right about the fraud that I've seen. I don't want to be right about the hubris that I've seen. I don't want to be right about the fact that she's using the frontline, America's frontline doctors' money that the donors gave to do the work to preserve humanity for our own personal gain. I don't want to be right about any of this. There's nothing beautiful about me standing up here on this show talking to you and saying to you, oh my God, this is what's happening in the movement. And we all need to open up our eyes and, shame the devil and tell the truth, because we cannot be like the enemies that we're fighting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have to be better than that.
Yeah.
And that's my message. We are better than that. We can't allow ourselves to become like our enemy.
Yeah. And I think the big message of this episode is that, we can't do anything about people's agendas. We can't do anything about people going off the rails. But what we can do is make sure that it doesn't happen to the freedom movement, and do what we can as diligent freedom fighters in order to make sure that the stuff that's, the shady things that are happening on the other side don't happen with our freedom movement.
Listen, I've been on probably every stage in this country. I was on a tour bus going through the heartland, going through the northern plains. I have friends all over this country. I know what the mama bears and the fathers and all of the people that lost their jobs because they would not be coerced to take a bioweapon. I know how all of the mothers and fathers felt about what was happening in their schools. I was there. I was talking to these Americans in the middle of COVID. I was traveling all over this country, talking to people that care about their families. It was not about race. It was not about class. It was about what they wanted to do to us, rewrite the DNA of our faith. And I thought that this woman, Simone Gold, would have understood that we have a sacred responsibility to do the right thing. Now, that doesn't mean be perfect, but work to do the right thing. And you don't tear apart the people that stood by you because they're saying to you that you were wrong about some of your conduct. Now they're saying to you that you've been wrong about from day one regarding your who you are.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yeah. And especially somebody like Joey Gilbert. I mean, we watch those campaigns really closely. Joey Gilbert definitely was somebody that was speaking the truth regardless of the price he had to pay. There was definitely a lot of repercussions for speaking the truth. And it's unfortunate that somebody like that's a true freedom fighter is being defamed by a freedom organization.
Well, this is a true test for us. This is a test. You can't put your head in the sand. You can't say, oh, I don't want to get involved. Oh, my God, we shouldn't say anything because we don't know how this is going to end. That is why we are in the situation we're in today.
Yep.
That is why the global tyrants knew that we were soft in the middle. We have lost our moral code. We have lost our principles and values. And I think at America's Frontline Doctors, they're reclaiming that. They're making sure that they don't. And I'm encouraged. I'm very proud of them. Forget me. Yeah. I'm thanking them for standing up for America and standing up for every organization in this country.
Yeah, and I think what the viewer must remember is that, yes, there is an issue with Dr. Gold right now, but there's also a dozen individuals within America's Frontline Doctors that are true freedom fighters, true heroes, and hopefully that's going to result in AFLDS 2.0 being bigger and better than 1.0.
Well, let me just tell you this, though. It's very interesting. There was a group called the Center for Countering Digital Hate. Mm-hmm. This group is out of the UK. It worked hand in hand with the government here to suppress us, to suppress our voices, to censor us as Americans, to strip us of our First Amendment rights, right? That's what she's been doing. as
Yeah.
of late, using the money that was collected to do the work of America's frontline doctors to do the exact same thing that those people were doing to us, and what legacy media was doing to us, what the banking industry is preparing to do to us. She's doing the exact same thing, and that
Yeah.
cannot be tolerated.
Yeah, and that's also, I mean, that something's got to be said about celebrity. It's not uncommon that, you know, people that are anonymous, when they become these, like, you know, quote unquote celebrities, kind of lose their moral compass. You know, they think, I mean, it's a classic story. They think they're bulletproof. I mean, you see it all over Hollywood, and unfortunately, this seems like it's becoming a very Hollywood-like story.
Well, listen, even for me personally, I always have to make sure that I'm God-centered. And even when my sick thinking pops up, I have to make sure that it's not about me and it's about those kids, because those kids deserve a future. Forget about me. I say it all the time. If you forget, this is not about me. Now, am I concerned? You know, am I concerned about our safety, all of us? Yeah, but guess what? If you're doing God's work, it does not matter. And she got away from doing God's work, period.
Yeah. If you're doing God's work, you shouldn't be worried about, you know, because we all believe in an afterlife, right? So
Absolutely.
nothing to be worried about. Kevin, this was amazing. Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for the amazing work you guys are doing over there. You, Sheriff Mack, Joey Gilbert, Rachel Rodriguez, and the whole AFLDS team. We really appreciate you coming on the show, and we'd love to follow up with you down the line as you make this wonderful AFLDS 2.0 come to fruition.
Well, it's not going anywhere. I need everybody to know those guys over there, they are tough. They're working. They're getting ready to go to the next level. And I'm watching this, and I'm very, very impressed, and I'm very encouraged. And, you know, I just think all of us need to take a deep breath and find our God courage and seek God's consciousness to do the work that he has ordained us to do. And that's what drives me. I don't know about everybody else, but I know the reason why I'm talking to you, the reason why I'm breathing the way I am today, is because God has chosen me from the day that I was born, just like you, to do the work that you're doing. And that's exactly what I'm going to continue to do.
God bless you, sir. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. I'm just going to quickly plug our next episode. We have an episode coming in a couple of days with Paul White about education and reforming education. And this Saturday, Mindy Robertson is going to be on her own show on the America Happens platform, www.americahappens.com, talking about U.S. citizenship and the freedom fight. So please join us for that. This was produced by Studio 17. Special thanks to Travis, Ebarb, and Andrea as well for helping us produce this episode. We will see you on the next episode of Blood Money.
Thank you.